everybody, welcome back to another amazing episode, Kicking It with Casca with Malpal and Hannah. Hannah, it's so good to see you again. How are you, friend?
Girl, I tell you what, now that we are putting these on the YouTubes, I have to explain why I am in a Christmas Ninja Turtle sweatshirt and it is October. Because,
Let's hear it.
okay, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but on the TikTokies, they are doing what is called an underground spirit week, where it is the teachers who dress up, but we do not tell the kids. So it has been so fun. They have not caught on really until today because they're like, it's not, they were yelling at us in the hall. What are you doing? It's October. We haven't even had Halloween. Why are you in this? So it's been fun. Monday we did dress all monochromatic one color. Tuesday, what was Tuesday? Oh, Tuesday was flannel plaid. Wednesday was workout Wednesday. That was sweet.
Love that one.
Now we're rocking Christmas attire, and then tomorrow I got to figure out what to do still. It's you can't bring your water bottle. You have to drink out of
Anything
bowl.
other than a water
Yeah,
bottle.
anything other than a cup. So I think they'll figure out that one too. But they've really caught on today, so it's been
You
really.
know what you should do is get one of those jack-o'-lantern pails like that you go trick-or-treating with.
Yes, or you had the boo buckets.
Get yourself a boo bucket from the McDonald's.
I need to get a boo
Get
bucket. That
some
would be
chicken
fun.
nuggies on the way. Okay, so when they found out today, did you tell them what you were
Oh no,
doing or you just played silly?
no. But then there were some girls who are sixth graders, and they're like, "We have figured this out. We've been on TikTok, and we know this is an underground spirit week." And I'm like, "Oh man, sixth
I
graders!"
love that. That is so fun. Well, hey, speaking of fun,
Ooh, yes.
we have a fantastic guest today. She is rocking leopard print.
Mm.
She is rocking herself. We love her. This is Dr. Ralita Cheeks. All hail the queen. All hail Ralita.
She is. She is the queen.
She is the queen. How are you, friend?
Honey, it is all of the things. It is Thursday and I'm loving it because it feels like a Friday.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be with you. You two are actually saved in my phone as the queens of counseling. I'm like,
Ah,
it just makes sense.
Ooh, I love that.
that is an honor. Love that. So fun. Well, we are so excited you are here with us. We have partnered with you on a couple of different things. So we are ready to rock out this podcast as well. I don't know, are your queen shoes, are they tied up and ready to kick it with us?
Baby, these boots was made for walking. All right.
Yes.
I stay ready so I don't have to get ready. But yes, I'm
Ugh.
excited to be here. My name is Dr. Ralita Cheeks. I am a freelance contractor. I am a school counselor. I'm an educational consultant and an inclusion and belonging leader. And I am just super excited to be here and just honored for you to invite me here today. Do I get to just to dive in with some topics, or do you want me to wait for some questions, or what can we do?
Girl, this is
I can dive in.
you are leading the show today. We are just here to ask questions if you need, but
Mhm.
if you want to jump in, jump in. But let's talk. I mean, what don't you do, girl? That was a long list.
Oh, and did she mention that she is also a wife and a mother of seven beautiful
Yeah.
babies?
I do. I dabble. Can I say that? Listen, I dabble. Okay. Yeah. So I ran into you yesterday and I knew that you were there. I didn't know you were going to be in my presentation. And so thank you so much for the support. I love it. I jumped on this when you said I could come on and we could talk a little bit about DEIB.
Oh
And I
yeah.
love saying DEIB. And I love to watch people's faces, right? Because you get a couple of different ones. Sometimes you get this, uh-huh, uh-huh. Have no idea what I'm talking about.
Hmm. Right?
Sometimes it's like legit telling me like, now what is that again? Right?
Yes.
Or you get that kind of like, oof, oof. Right? Because if you're watching anything political and you
Mhm.
hear the term DEIB, it's not always positive, which is amazing to me because do we truly have an understanding of what DEIB is? And so DEIB is an acronym and it stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And as soon as I say diversity, instantly people sometimes shut down or they instantly think, what do you think they think?
Race.
And ethnicity instantly. And we're a counselor, so we get to say yes and Because you're absolutely right. It absolutely is race and it is ethnicity. It is so much more than that. And so the way I like to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is really understanding what they're asking you and what it means when you hear these words. So diversity, simply put, is just asking that question of is, hey, who's in the room? Because diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is this huge umbrella that covers so many things. I mean, I guess in my today language, I would just say, it's all the things, right? Because that's what it is.
Right.
When we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and especially if you're talking about diversity, you're talking about your internal influences, your external influences, your organizational influences, your world influences, like all of the things, which then also encompasses your political views, your background, your gender, your age, ability. Like it's all of the things because that is diversity. And it, subsequently, it's also diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And so knowing that that is truly the definition of diversity, I guess my question then comes back to is why is this a scary thing? Because isn't this exactly who is in our classrooms?
We are public
Kids,
education, right?
kids
Everybody,
from different backgrounds,
right? Yeah.
right? It's not like everybody shows up and we've got one model of kid. Man, in a perfect world, okay, it'd be super boring too, but it's an option. And then even more than that, that's our families.
Right.
That's the communities in which our students are coming from. So why wouldn't we want to try to and incorporate diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in the classroom, in the schools? We often know and understand that often school districts have a disconnect with families. Do you want to
Yeah.
guess why? Is they feel like they don't belong. Like they feel like if we go to school, if we say this, then this is going to happen. The school's out to get you. They don't understand where we're coming from. And that question would be, do we? Do we really? We already know that poverty is, that's a whole kind of mentality that, through Ruby Bridges, not Ruby Bridges, Ruby Payne, we came through and we learned a
We love
lot
all
from
the
Ruby Payne,
rubies.
right? Yeah, it was one of them. But through Ruby Payne, we learned a lot through Ruby Payne, right? That it was a whole culture of itself. I talked to educators today, and a lot of our educators came from poverty too. And they'll tell you the same thing too. It's a whole different culture and mindset. Poverty falls under diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging too. And so if diversity is asking who's in the room, then you get equity. And what do you think that equity is going to ask? I'm just going to tell you, but but it asks who's trying to get into the room and can't, right? Because we want to be equitable, not equal, but equitable. And there is a difference. I don't think we have enough time. That's a whole nother session because people will question that and they'll be like, well, isn't this no? So if you're trying to be equitable, then you have to constantly and consistently look at and redistribute this ideal and position of power. So it's like, okay, I want to be equitable. I want to make sure all kids have access to education. So we're going to give everybody a Chromebook. Cool, 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 cool. That was great. Everybody's got one. Here's the thing. We're going to have to revisit this because if we don't revisit it, what we thought was equitable was actually equal.
Right.
Everybody got a Chromebook. So now everybody has access to education. Do they?
Allegedly.
If we look at that again, we see that they don't.
Yeah.
If you want to be equitable, it's time and it's money, and you got to go back and look at it and see, okay, so now what did we miss? So we gave everybody a Chromebook to hopefully give everybody access, but we're still missing it. So what are we missing it? In some school districts, they caught on it really quick, and then we're like, hey, we got to give hotspots, right? Then we found out the hotspots weren't enough. And so we're like, well, maybe if we help, get internet, maybe that'll be helpful. And it was for a little bit because there were a couple of different organizations that were, they weren't the providers. There you go. A couple of different providers that said, hey, we'll help. But then when I did some bigger, little deeper digging, then I found out they'll help, but only if they don't already have an existing bill. And I'm like, man,
So many
right?
barriers with that too.
There is, and it was hard
Yes.
for some families, like, we don't even have access to fill out the form to get the free internet. So that's a whole other piece of it. And I know some schools, like when I was working in Lawrence, we had like a family coordinator and we were like a neighborhood school, so people could walk and they could use our coordinator and access the space, the internet, our printers, different things. So that was great, but not every school has that. So you're exactly right, where it's not equitable.
Well, and then you also have to think too, then it was like, well, they can also come before school and after school. Can they?
Yeah. Or
So
they can go to McDonald's and they can sit in the parking lot and do their homework, can't they? No, like,
mhm.
how are they getting there to use their
It's -3 outside. You go outside.
right, you go out
Don't
there and
use your
use
internet at
yeah.
home.
Yeah.
You go walk 2 miles and use that internet and get back with me.
Mm.
And so that's where we start talking about equity. And then of course we have inclusion, and inclusion asks the question, has everyone been included, and has everyone's ideals been heard? And I'm from Texas, so I say ideals. You can talk about me if you want to, but that's how I talk, okay? And inclusion, I mean, it's a tricky one. Inclusion, the best way to say it is just that invitation to the table. Give them that opportunity to be a part of the conversations. We do that a lot. I think we're doing it better in education as opposed to push out. We kind of try to push in. And so we're doing better. There's always going to be room for improvement. And then finally, of course, we have that B. And that B is, to me, that's everything. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, those are all the tools that you need to get to the B, because the B is the belonging, and belonging asks, do the people in the room feel they are accepted and valued for their authentic self, who they are through and through, not having to put on a mask. Have y'all ever seen, I don't know which one it is, but there was this commercial and it was about depression, and you see them put on this little smiley face, like
Mm,
popsicle with a
Yes, I know what you're
face,
talking
I
and it's
about.
like a
Like
absolutely
dip it
smile, and I love
sometimes.
it. And when they remove it, you can see all of the pain and all of the hurt, but they walk through the world with this smile. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like how many of our students do this? And here's a kicker for you. How many of our faculty do
I was,
this?
yes.
so true.
And here's the thing with that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. It is not just for students. It's for our parents, it's for our communities, and it is for our teachers. And I wholeheartedly believe when we truly understand what belonging is and we take those actionable steps towards belonging in education, we're going to stop losing our teachers. I think it's great. We give them some extra money. I mean, everybody likes that. Don't get me wrong. Like, woo, raise my check. Okay. And I think it's great that we do the occasional, pick me ups, and we'll do the Sonic drinks, much needed. You need those things. Teachers are not going to stay because they're like, oh, I can't afford to give up this Sonic drink. They're not, said by nobody
Yeah.
ever. Okay. They're nice, but they're really not welcoming and understanding who that teacher is as a person. Can that teacher show up as their authentic self and still be good for kids too? And that needs to be stated. You know what I mean? Because sometimes if we're not good for kids, we're not good for kids. But if we're good for kids and they're able to show up as their authentic self, then yes, that's how we're going to get teachers to stay. I don't know. I've done a lot of talking. Let me be quiet.
No, we don't want you to be quiet. That's why you're here. And I like too how you said all of the different perspectives. And when you brought up DEI-B first, we said race and ethnicity. And those two things are not the same either, where people try to get it to be the same.
Mhm. Yeah, ethnicity is more of that culture, and how you identify. Race, it's a social construct.
Mhm.
I, I don't know what else to say about that. But I mean, we don't have time to get into how the brain works and all of the things. But that's really what it all boils down to: is we're human, and our brain loves to categorize. And we love it, and it's fabulous, right? And so scientists way back when, they had to know, like, how do we section off, how do we put this here? Okay, well, these people are from Mongolia, so they're Mongolian, and these people are from the Caucasus, and so they're going to be Caucasian. And then you have Asia and Asian, and they're saying, well, they have these features, and so they're a part of this. And then you get to Black, Negro, not tied to any body of land, which then also must mean that they are less than. Race is a social construct. No rhyme, no reason. It was just something that we're like, okay, we have to make sense of this. So how do we do that?
Right.
And ethnicity is that culture that you identify with.
So
Yeah.
with that information and being in our schools, like what are some ways that we can make sure that we are practicing DEIB? Like what are some tools for counselors? I mean, is it starting with checking your biases and then moving from there? Or what are some things that counselors can make sure that we're doing so that we are best serving our kids?
Well, and yes, that's exactly it. I'm always going to say we have got to start with the knowledge and the understanding that we all hold stereotypes. Again, the way your mind works, right? We all have this ideal of different types of people, and I've heard some people who is like, "Oh no, absolutely not," and I'm so accepting and all of the things, and then they come to one of my trainings and they do one of my bias walks, and they're like, "Oh man, wait."
Sorry,
Hang on.
I was wrong.
The reality of it is like we all hold bias,
Mhm.
and is bias good or is it bad? Bias is what it is. Okay, that's what bias is. And there are times that bias will keep you safe because it'll let you know, hey, listen, this is not where you need to be. You have seen things like this happen in the past, and it's not okay. I will say, if it's telling you you don't need to be here, then I guess my next question is, well, why?
Mm.
What is happening? Are we in broad daylight with a group of people who just look different than us and now we feel like we're unsafe? Or is it at night, we're women in a park by ourselves? Listen, a lot of things there that says no. That's not safe. You know what I'm saying? But
Sure.
there are some people, I've had people tell me, and I've invited them to church, and I'm like, hey, I'd love it if you come to church with me. And she's a good friend and I appreciate her honesty. She said, I love you, but I am not secure with myself to be the minority in the room. Hurt me to my heart.
Mm,
Wow.
But that was her truth. I don't I don't know what you do other than having to accept the fact that some people are comfortable when they are the majority. As a person of color, I am often the minority. I don't think I know what it feels like to be the majority in the room. And maybe I don't even think about it when I am, right? And maybe that's just a privilege that each one of us holds when we are the majority.
mhm.
We've just never really considered. I would say I had did the unpack it was not unpacking, it was the Macintosh, Peggy Macintosh, there you go. And she did her privilege assessment. And one of the questions on there, it just sticks with me because it was something that I never considered, but it was accurate. And on it, it says, if I choose, I can eat lunch with someone who has the same skin color as me.
Mm.
Mm.
No, I don't.
Wow.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe on the weekend. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, isn't that interesting?
Mhm.
Thing that I never realized, no, that's something that I'm not privileged to, right? And it was interesting just to even read some of these ideals of privilege that we don't recognize as educators, where you ask me, like, are there some things that we can do? I mean, we can take two steps back and just look at our day. What are we going to do? Maybe you write it out. I'm going to go to work. Before I get there, I got to drive there. So I'm going to put on some clothes. I'm going to take a shower. Write down all of these things that you're actually going to do in the day, right? And you're going to have to like nitpick it. And then when you get to school, look at everything that you did to get here today. And then look at the students in your classroom. And then consider what it took for some of them to get there for the day.
Love that.
And I love that exercise because when you start thinking about the different levels, right? If you're talking high school, man, they might have had to drop everybody off. They might have had to feed everybody. They might have had to get parents up, right? If you're talking about little kids, oh my goodness, were they yelled at? Were they like rushing? Do some of them have holes in their shoe? Do they have coats if they needed the coats? Did they tell their parents, hey, I need this, and they're not going to be able to have it, and they know they won't be able to get it? Could they even take a shower? Did they get to eat? Right? And then that's how we're going to start to see some of our own biases, some of the privilege that we live in and that we work in. Because the funny thing about privilege is you can't imagine life without these things because you've never experienced it. You think this is what I need, this is what we do. I know when I go to turn on that light's going to come on. And if it's not, I'm going to call my husband. Hey, baby, what's going on? Right? But some babies, they don't know. They don't know if there's going to be food. And guess what? We know hangry is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
Some of our babies are acting out because they're hangry. And then guess what? They don't have the words to verbalize, I really didn't get enough to eat last night. This is week 2 of not having enough to eat. So where do we start? We start with ourselves. We start with the self-awareness of our backgrounds, where we came up, to some of our personal beliefs. And then we start to say, okay, so this is what I think. This is what I have been conditioned to think, right? Now, how do I want to think? Where was I raised? How do I want to think? Then the question becomes is like, now, how do I change some of that thinking? Have you ever heard of that IAT, that implicit association bias test thing? Implicit bias.
I'm trying to think.
Look it up.
We did when I
It's
worked
by
at
Harvard.
we went through a lot of
I'm looking
diverse,
up one right now. I'm looking that up.
but I don't remember which ones, but it was good stuff.
Yeah, if you ever get an opportunity, check that out. And it's by Harvard. And it's kind of funny. You kind of have to scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll say proceed and take the test. But anyway, the idea is that you go as fast as you can on your computer and you select whatever, implicit bias test you want to take. And there's a couple of them. It's weight, facial features, or skin tone, gender, race, ethnicity, whatever. And then I think it takes about 15, no more than 20 for sure. But you just go as fast as you can. And then at the end, it lets you know where you hold implicit bias. And it doesn't say that you are a biased person. It doesn't say that you're a racist person or anything like that. It's simply saying, hey, in the moment, your brain is categorizing here, it's categorizing there. Mm-hmm. And it's just a good starting place to say, okay, this is something I didn't know about myself. I might not agree with it, and that's okay. I always say, you don't have to agree with these things. You don't have to. You can only take on what you can take on, I'm
There's
gonna be
lots
quiet
of
again, 'cause I
different
just
ones,
keep
lots
talking.
of different ones that you could
There's
take
a ton.
too.
Yes. Yes. So you can check yourself with all of those things, and I think it's funny. I love going and talking to different districts, for professional development, because our teachers do it every day. Like, we know when we go to professional development, we are going to sit with the same group, same person.
Switch
Right?
it up.
But what did I just tell you earlier? I said, hey, this is for our faculty too. Guess what? You have faculty members who are showing up to meetings, they're not engaging in the conversation. They're usually kind of section off by themselves. They got the weight of the world going on. They need a friend just like everybody else. They need somebody that they can confide in just like everybody else. Sometimes them kids are kidding. Okay. They are doing all the things and they need that safe place just like everybody else. Sometimes it's just even within their team. Like they're coming in with all the ideas and they want to do all the things, but the team is just not receiving them. You hire somebody new, it doesn't mean that they're going to get along
Right.
with the people in the department.
We've always done it, so why should we change?
And there it is.
And then
Or how do we even know that it needs to be a change, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have those people that have been there too long and that don't need a change. And it's like, oh my.
I think when we say like people have been there and they can only see one way, I think that is an inclusion issue. And we've got to pull them in and keep them invited to the table. And then walk them through the process. And I had spoken a lot about that yesterday too. It's a leadership, it's an inclusion issue. And a lot of times we do get individuals like that are like, nope, I've tried it. I'm not going to do this. Let me tell you what we're going to do.
Listen,
we're going to invite you in. You're going to walk through all of the steps because I need to show you something different. I can't tell you anything. I already know that's not going to work. but I need to show you something different. This is how I'm going to show you.
Wow. Yes. And so, Relita, what would you say to parents that are sending their babies into school or maybe going to a new school? I know that we could talk for hours on each one of these different things, but like if your elevator speech, like what can we tell our kids to help with this and to do better?
I think we start with the person.
Okay.
Talk to the person who is before you and make an effort to remember what that conversation was, Hey, what do you got planned for today?
Mhm.
What was the best thing about yesterday? I don't know, nothing. Hmm. You know, you're up, you're moving, we're doing pretty good. I said, are you looking forward to anything? And then next time you see him, you can ask the same questions if you want to. What is happening though is we just kind of get in our routine. I don't think that anybody is an innately bad person. I just think that we've all are living life and life is lifing a lot of times. And when COVID hit, I really thought it was going to be a change. I was out at the park one day and I saw a man in his suit and tie, and he had his son with him, and he was getting on a skateboard teaching his son how to skateboard. And I was like, world, we've got it right. And he's in there and he's doing the flips. I'm like, bro, you better work. Okay. But I do feel like we're reverting. We're going right back to where we were. We're trying to jam everything in and we're forgetting that people are just people. And so, if you have that opportunity where you find yourself just with another individual, just ask them about their day. Maybe you notice something. Hey, I really like your pen. Is that special? What is that about? You know what I mean? But take a moment to notice the person. We as educators, we know that a big thing with a lot of our staff is often daycare. You know,
Mhm.
ask. We see some of these new mamas. Ask, hey, how is daycare going? A lot of times, that's their stressor. And they really just need somebody to listen, you
Mm.
know, encourage people to use their employee assistant portal. We have those. And if you utilize those, they do have some easy, quick meals on there, like crock pot meals and stuff. That can be super helpful for individuals because, we're at work and we're just like stressing, what are we going to cook? We're getting off of this job to go to a whole other job, right? When you see the parents at the school, I think that's vital too to try to find those conversations of something about them, you know, because one, if they're at school, 9 times out of 10, they got to go back to work, right? So they're already kind of super tense. So asking questions like, oh, being back here, does that remind you of elementary? Does that remind you of high school? You play sports, you play band, sometimes it goes way left. And I hear horrible, horrible stories where it's
Oh.
like, oh no, nobody liked me and it was this and da 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 da. But you want to know what? That's also an opportunity to come back. I hate that that's how your experience was at school. But I want you to know that I'm here and I want to advocate for your kid to make sure they don't experience that. Well, they're already going through that and da da da. I want you to know you can reach out and talk to me, okay? This is my
Mhm.
name. Here's my number. You call out and we'll see what we can do. Sometimes I can't make it better, but I can at least listen, But just extending that, recognizing the person.
I think what you hit on there is so important too, because we are so quick. We live in a call out culture now. We want to call everybody out, right? So parents aren't showing up to a GEI meeting, or parents aren't coming into parent teacher conferences, or we've called them and they're not calling us back. So automatically we're like, what's wrong with them? Are they not invested in their child's life? Why are they doing this? And really, we need to call in. We need to call in and say, hey, I noticed you weren't at parent teacher conferences. I was worried about you. You guys doing okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Because some of these parents, it's really hard for them to come back to a building that, one, maybe they were a student at, or two, like you said, school was hard. I was picked on. I don't want to go back. It brings back memories of like how difficult it was for me to go to school. And we don't take the time to think that parents might have those feelings, might be experiencing those feelings, or something might be going on. I mean, I think in the helping profession as a counselor, like we do think about that, but sometimes we can get in that funk too, where we're like, they're just not calling us back. They're just not emailing us back. And this is their fault. Well, we got to pause. And I think that it's important that we really start thinking about that call in and stop calling out.
And I
Isn't that
think
like
with
we just
both of
talked about that too? Go ahead.
and I think with all of that, you have to be brave and
Yeah.
strike
Mhm.
up that conversation and be that person, and don't just get on your phone because it's uncomfortable and you don't know what to talk about. And being that listening ear and taking it person by person and human by human. And with that too, Relita, I know that you talk a lot about names and how
Mm,
important names are
mm,
and the meaning
mhm.
behind names. Can you touch a little bit about that as well?
So the meaning behind names. So yes, names are they're everything. A lot of times I get the question of, are nicknames okay? I mean, I think we have to ask that second question. Why are we utilizing the nickname?
Mm.
If we are utilizing a nickname because we cannot pronounce the student's name, absolutely not. Nope. And you can ask me 20 times a day, and 20 times a day, I'm saying, you have to learn the name. And that's just the way that it is. Because names have so much power, why somebody came to be and who they are and where the name was drawn by. And sometimes I definitely get, oh, my mom just liked the name. Hey, but that speaks to your mom liked the name,
There
Mm.
was a
right?
reason
It's
for
all
that.
right. And so when we don't call somebody by their name, essentially it could be saying, like, I'm not taking the time to get to know you,
Mm.
right? Remember
It
what I
makes
said
me
about belonging
uncomfortable,
being,
right? Because
you said what?
it's like it makes me uncomfortable because I can't say it. So I'm just gonna get out of I want to feel comfortable around you, so I'm not gonna do it. That's another piece of it.
And, you call somebody something else, and I wonder what that triggers in them, Because I got to tell you, this whole Dr. Relita Cheeks, that is completely different than when they say mommy. Because I'd be like, listen, y'all don't go sit down. It's the same thing. If somebody says Mrs. Cheeks, instantly I'm like, okay, make sure I represent my husband in a positive way. But honey, if you call me Lita, I'd be like, girl, what we gonna do? It's the same thing when I call you two ladies queens. What does that do to you? It's like, yeah,
We love
Get
it. We love
your
it. Yes,
crown
yes, yes.
ready.
right. That's it. Fix your crown, baby. And so we really have to pay attention to those names. When we say the names wrong, we have to be so watchful of that because I know there have been in substitutes, no disrespect, but substitutes who, don't have all of the training all of the times, but they come in, they mispronounce a name, and you know how kids are, they kind of giggle and it's funny, and then it sticks to them. But that child, oh my gosh, and how it hurts them, and it's just not okay. And it may have been something to be funny, for a moment, but when we are giving nicknames that stick with the child and then become derogatory and hurtful,
Mhm.
that's on us. That's what we did, and we have to own that. And the problem with that is 9 times out of 10 we don't know that we caused harm, because again, I don't think that anybody would purposely do that to a child. But what Hannah said is right. If we feel like we are going to mess it up or sound funny and we don't want to, we're just going to change it or just try to laugh it off, but we hurt the kid in the process.
I have a fantastic example of that. So, elementary school counselor, go into the classrooms, and I said, "All right, babies, here we go, here we go." Well, a little girl was really hurt and went home and said, "Miss Jacobs called me a baby." And
There it is.
so I said, "Oh, sweetie, now I understand." I said, "I call everybody babies because you are my babies. It's a term of endearment. I care about you." But then also explaining that, because
Mm-hmm.
she went home and said, "Well, I called her a baby as she's, a whiny little kid." No, I'm so sorry, sugar. And so that was a really good conversation and a wake-up call for me. Did not
Mm-hmm.
mean harm at all. Like you said, most people don't. but really learning names and
Mhm.
knowing that that is so, so important.
Mhm. Mhm. And I would also say too, um, inviting them to get to know who you are too. You
Mhm.
know, there's remember that piece of belonging, like getting to show up as your authentic self too. And, Mallory, I want to make sure that I give you permission to do that as well. And I don't know why we need these permissions, but I got to say that I love that you want to do your best and do right by these babies. And see, I'm going to call them babies too,
Yeah,
these
see?
young people and these students, and call them things that make them feel good. And of course, if we get corrected, we need to make the effort to
Mhm.
to change our language. However, you do get to show up as your authentic self too, you know?
Well,
And
thank you for
so
that.
you
Yes.
can definitely change your language. And it's happened to me too. Cause I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. Like everybody, baby sugar, honey, iced tea. Okay, that's everybody that. Okay. But there have been times where I've been called out and they're like, I don't really like to be called baby and everything else. And I said, okay. And so I would always make it a purpose to make sure I would call that individual by their name. But I
Yeah.
promise you by the end of the year, Miss Cheeks, I want to be called baby like
All right. Here
you
we go,
know
baby.
but you just have to let them know like where you're from. You're like, I apologize, that's never my intent. This is how I talk to everybody because you are precious. And what do we do with babies? We treat them like gold. We want to make sure they have everything they need. But if you don't want to be called that, I will do my best. I'm only asking that you give me grace and keep correcting me because I'm
Right?
going to get it right. But let them know, right? We just can't. I call it a Q-tip. You have to quit taking it personal. Don't
Oh,
sit there and let everything
yes.
just weigh you down. It's like, have the conversation. Okay, they said something to you. They get to advocate for themselves. Isn't that what we're teaching them? You know, so they've said it. Okay, we tried to do better, but just make sure that you let them know it's like you're not perfect.
Mhm.
And so you're
Yeah.
probably gonna mess up again. But please give them that permission of, but keep correcting me
Right.
because you matter. And I want to make sure that I call you by the name that is going to make you comfortable too. So
Mhm.
I want to pronounce your name the way that it's supposed to be pronounced. I won't use sugar baby honey iced tea. But when I do, please say, my name is, and I'm going to say, you're absolutely right. Let me try again.
Right.
Mm.
Because it is such a powerful thing, and also taking that and not like you said, Q-tip, don't take it personal, just do better, you know? Nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
Nothing wrong with that. And it's funny too, having doctor in front of your name. There are so many people that take pride in that, and as you should. And then there's some people who are like, please don't call me doctor. Please, like, just call me Mallory or just call me whatever. And so it's very interesting too, the different perspectives with that.
And I would love to talk to other people about this too, because you know, I think what they're hinting around though is that name, what it pulls out of you, the expectation, and it's like, oh man, you know,
That brings
it's
up
it's
another,
just like
yeah.
I was told, we shouldn't call people like he and she and all of the things. And yeah, I totally get it. Whatever. That's good. I'm down for that. Here's the issue though. Then they said, we'll call people folks. And I listened to that and I had to wait. And I was like, I respect where you're coming from with the folks, but you have to know people from Texas, if you say call people folks, I'm about to say, baby, let me put my feet up. I say, because it doesn't call me to let me be in class. I can get down with everybody, but you also have to know that different words have different meanings, much like you shared with the babies, right? They
Mhm.
have different meanings across different cultures and places and things like that. And so, in Kansas, folks may be fine, but I'm gonna tell you, y'all show up there in Texas and say folks, everybody gonna be like, hey fam, what we doing, fam?
Well, and then you bring in the y'all and all y'all with the Texas.
ain't, ain't nothing wrong with that. I
No,
use that every day.
ma'am.
Them is whole words, okay?
Absolutely. And I'm really bad too, greeting a group of people. Hey guys, how are you?
I do that too.
Yeah, I'm so bad about that. And I
Too.
don't
So
mean anything by it.
so I catch myself from time to time because it's like I said, my background, it's down deep. I know better. I know better. But it is down deep. And so sometimes I'll find myself in front of students and I stop and I just apologize. I say, hey, listen, Dr. Cheese is from Texas, and I'm not calling this, as my escape, but please know I do not mean to continue to say that, and I'm trying to do better. And then a couple more times now, I've just given myself the permission to stop and then change it. They know why I'm changing it, but it's like we're just going to keep moving forward. And that guys thing, I had a teacher who had the opportunity to teach on a Native American reservation, and it didn't go well the first couple of months. And she didn't really know why until one of the students spoke up. One of the students went to her and said, I don't understand why the boys get to go eat lunch before us. And she said, well, we all go down together. No, you let the boys get in line before us. She said, I've never done that. She says, yes, you do. You do it every time. You say, come on, guys, line up. And then you never have the girls line up. And I said, oh my God. She said, and that's when I learned is like, the term of guys and girls and all of that, that even, across crosses ethnicities and races, our words have so much power. And again, she meant absolutely nothing by it, but how blessed was she that somebody had enough in them to go and say something. That'd have been mortifying if they would have went the whole year and these girls just thought that their teacher hated them. Oh my gosh, like I can't even imagine, It
Right.
was bad enough it was 3 months.
That's wild, but something that you don't even think about, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
because that's our privilege because we don't have to.
Yes.
It goes full circle, doesn't it?
She's
It
got us
does.
again. Dang. Well, you have given us so much to think about today. So many good tips, so many good ideas, so many ways to think about our perspective and how that differs from others and access and all the things. Whew. We appreciate you being on here with us, girl.
I know we could talk to you all day and
Oh,
night, my
all
friend.
day long.
We do enjoy ourselves a bit much. I'm like, we have to do like 30 minutes prior so we can just do all the check-in.
Well, and I love it
Belonging is never
too.
an issue with us.
Yes. And
No, yeah.
yesterday when we were all together, we were all in the same color scheme. That was
Wasn't
the
that funny?
best.
That was great.
Well, because the first time when we went to the one during the summertime, I was like, this was the color I wanted to wear. I said, I'm not doing that again.
It's like
I
we know,
love it.
we're on the same wavelength.
Now, the real question is, did you go and buy that leather dress that you were looking at?
No, because I stopped and had 2 corn dogs, and then I was like, let me go to Best. But thank you for reminding me because I need to go get my dress. I am not playing with that.
Add to
Yes.
cart, baby. Add
She's gonna
to
hang up
cart.
with you and do that.
Yes, yes. Well, we always end our time with a fun question. So speaking of shopping, if somebody handed you $100 bill, you could use it in person. You could use it online. You could use it anywhere you want. Super cool store. Maybe you want to go buy gas with it. What would you do with that $100 bill?
My truth is I'm gonna put it away for a rainy day. That's my
Ah,
truth. What I would actually do is get a gift card and then use the gift card for a place I wanted to go later.
Mm.
Because if I buy a gift card with Dylan's, I get points back and then I spend money twice. So
especially on Fridays with that quadruple gas points.
see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
do that Fridays. That's a hot tip.
Yes.
And you can, yeah. I used to do that in college all the time. Where are we going to eat? Oh, Olive Garden. Okay, I'll be there in 10 minutes because I'm stopping at Dylan's.
Absolutely.
What a great idea. Well, Dr. Cheeks, Ralita, you're amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of the service that you do for education and your consulting work. You rock.
Truly. We appreciate you being on, girl.
Thank you for having me, and I hope you guys have a blessed day.
You too.